while the unemployment rate of the country is very high, the number of unemployed women is even more worrying. Now, Statistics South Afrika will today announce the quarterly labour force survey data for the first quarter of 2022. Our business reporter, Kopano Gumbi, joining us now live from Sandton. Kopano, good morning to you. So the official unemployment rate in the country standing at 35.3%, but that particular figure much higher when it comes to the women of this country who are unemployed. Talk to us about that.
That's correct, Polly. In fact, the number increases to over 40% for women in general. And then when you look at black women, the number gets even higher, with 50% or more of black women in South Africa being unemployed. So really only the second highest after we see youth unemployment, which we know is at a staggering 74% that we have in the country right now. So we expect to hear from Statis SA how those numbers have changed, if at all, whether they've decreased or increased in the next few hours. Statis SA will be releasing that data. And if we look at some of the economic data that we could use, we can see a bit of a mixed picture, Polly, really, that on some parts of the economy things are moving very well. We see manufacturing numbers are improving. We've seen vehicle sales improving. But then on the other end, we've seen that although salaries are increasing, the number of people who are employed now still remains less than before the pandemic. And so all of those factors will have a role have an influence on what we see from the Q1 numbers later today, Polly.
Yeah, then of course, Kopano, the data today will be watched very closely by ordinary South Africans. And I suppose the other important figure we should be talking about is that of young people in South Africa, also at a very, very high level. And it's one that keeps the president up at night.
Absolutely, and we've seen the government really trying to make ends to try and tackle this challenge of youth unemployment through their various schemes, the presidential employment scheme, in the private sector we have the youth employment scheme, we have other NGOs involved in trying to just help young people get into employment, because there are around 3 million of them who really are not in any kind of education or employment, which is a very worrying concern for policymakers, as that means that the amount of social support that they're going to need going forward, Polly, and for the amount of time that they'll need that policy support is what is a concern for policymakers. And of course, you know, these numbers come at a time where we're seeing a rise in costs across the board for many, many South Africans. And so although those might not play a role right now, we could find in Q2, in Q3, and later on in the year that the increases in prices of food and fuel that we've seen, and inflation, as well as interest rates, all of those may come into play a factor in how businesses can keep their doors open and keep the lights on and keep employing South Africans.
Business reporter Kopano Gumbi, thank you very much for that update live for us on the streets of Sandton.